After 18 years of marriage, my wife told me not to touch her. That was the first thread I pulled. By the time I was done, I'd discovered she'd been living a double life for months. But I'm an insurance investigator. I know how to find the truth. What she didn't count on was that I would document everything. And when I was finished, she lost more than just our marriage. She lost everything she thought she controlled. Sometimes, the hunter becomes the prey. My name is Rick Wallace. I'm 49, and I've been an insurance adjuster for 15 years. It's good money, a stable job that has me driving across 3 counties, investigating accidents, fires, and storm damage. I thought I had it all figured out. A nice house in Millbrow, Ohio, a wife who seemed content, and enough money saved that we were already talking about early retirement. Debbie and I got married when I was 31 and she was 25. We never had kids. We tried for years, went through all the treatments, but it just wasn't in the cards. Eventually, we stopped talking about it and focused on building our life together. I convinced myself we were enough for each other. The first real sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday night in March. I just wrapped up a kitchen fire claim in Centerfield and got home around 7:30. Debbie was at the sink with her back to me, washing dishes she could have easily left for the morning. "Hey, honey," I said, coming up behind her. "Long day." I reached for her shoulders, a gesture I'd made 1,000 times before, but she sidestepped away as if my touch had burned her. "Not now, Rick," she said, without even turning around. Her voice was flat, cold. "I just need some space." I stood there, my hands frozen in midair, feeling like an idiot. Space? We'd been married for 18 years. What kind of space did she need that she couldn't find in a 4-bedroom house? "Is everything okay?" I asked, taking a step back. Debbie finally turned, and that's when I saw it. She was wearing makeup, full makeup, foundation, mascara, the works, at 7:30 on a Tuesday night, after supposedly being home all day. Her hair was done too, not in the messy bun she usually wore around the house. "I'm fine," she said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Just tired?" Then I caught a scent I didn't recognize. It wasn't her usual perfume, and it wasn't mine. It was something else, something that made my stomach clench for a reason I couldn't name. "Are you going out tonight?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. "No," she replied quickly, too quickly. "I just felt like putting myself together a little." "Is that a crime?" I wanted to press her, to ask why she'd get all dressed up to wash dishes, but something in her posture told me to back off. So I did what I'd been doing more and more lately. I retreated. That night, lying in bed next to my wife of 18 years, I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the last time we'd really talked. Not about bills or schedules or whose turn it was to call the plumber, but really talked. I couldn't. I also couldn't remember the last time we'd been intimate. Not just sex, though that had become rare enough, but any kind of physical affection. No holding hands during a movie, no quick kisses goodbye, no casual touches in the hallway. When did we become two strangers sharing a mortgage? The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed. Debbie was already downstairs, which was unusual. She normally slept until 8:30. I found her in the kitchen, fully dressed, applying lipstick while using her phone's camera as a mirror. "You're up early," I said, pouring myself coffee from the pot she'd already made. "I've got errands to run," she said, not looking at me. She slipped her phone into her purse, but not before I saw it buzz with notifications. "What kind of errands?" "Just the usual. Groceries, you know. But she was wearing her good jeans, the ones with the blue sweater I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. The one she'd said was too nice for everyday wear. Since when did a trip to the pharmacy require her best outfit? I'll probably be out most of the day, she added, grabbing her keys. Don't wait for me for lunch. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee and thinking. 18 years of marriage gives you a certain insight into your spouse's habits. Debbie was a creature of routine. Groceries on Sunday. The pharmacy only when a prescription was running low. Never both on a random Wednesday morning. I had a water damage assessment in Westerville that day, but I found myself distracted through the entire inspection. The homeowner was asking me questions about claims, and all I could do was mentally replay every conversation Debbie and I had had over the last month. When did she start taking her phone with her everywhere, even into the bathroom? When did she add a passcode? Why did she always turn the screen face down when I walked into the room? That evening, I decided to stop by Miller's Market, the grocery store where Debbie claimed she'd been. I told myself I was just picking up milk, but I was lying. I was checking to see if her car was there. It wasn't. I drove past the CVS on Route 23. Not there either. When I got home at 6:15, Debbie's car was in the driveway, and she was in the kitchen starting dinner. Her hair looked freshly styled, and she wore the same subtle makeup as the night before. How were the errands? I asked. Fine, she said, not turning from the stove. Just boring stuff. Got everything we needed at Miller's. I opened the fridge. No new groceries. I went to the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. The same pill bottles at the same levels they'd been that morning. That night, after Debbie went to bed, I did something I had never done in 18 years of marriage. I logged into our phone account online. Her data and text usage had tripled in the last 2 months. There were hundreds of messages to a number I didn't recognize. Calls that lasted for hours, made at times when she was supposedly running errands or having lunch with her sister. I wrote the number down on a piece of paper and stared at it until my eyes burned. The man I'd been for 49 years wouldn't have done what I did next. He would have trusted his wife, believed her explanations, given her the benefit of the doubt. But that man was starting to feel like a fool. The number from the phone bill belonged to a Marcus Webb. It took me exactly 3 minutes on Google to find that out. Marcus Webb, 38 years old, a personal trainer at Elite Fitness downtown. His Facebook profile showed a guy who spent a lot of time in the gym and wasn't shy about posting shirtless photos with motivational quotes about living your best life. I stared at his picture for a long time. This was the man my wife was exchanging hundreds of texts with. 11 years my junior. A body built in a gym, and according to his relationship status, single. The smart thing would have been to confront Debbie right then and there, to ask her straight out what was going on. But 18 years as an investigator had taught me that people lie when they're cornered. They confess to small things to hide the big ones. They deflect, they blame, they turn it back on you. I needed hard proof, not an emotional explanation filled with half-truths. On Thursday, she told me she was joining a book club that met at the public library. That's great, honey, I said. Sounds fun. What's the first book? She hesitated just a fraction too long, as if searching for a title. Pride and Prejudice. She said it like she believed it, but something didn't sit right. The Milbro Library has closed at 6 p.m. on Thursdays for the last 5 years, ever since the budget cuts. I knew this because I investigated a slip and fall claim there 2 years ago. That night, I told Debbie I was having dinner with my colleague, Carl. Instead, I drove to the library at 7:30. The parking lot was empty. The lights were out. A chain was stretched across the entrance. Then, on a hunch, I drove past Elite Fitness. Debbie's silver Honda was parked in the back row, right next to a black pickup truck that matched the one in Marcus Webb's Facebook photos. I sat in my car across the street for 2 hours, feeling like a cliche detective in a cheap movie. At 9:45, they walked out together. Webb walked her to her car. He leaned into her window and gave her a goodbye kiss. It wasn't a peck on the cheek. It was a real kiss. The kind she used to give me when we were dating. I followed her home from a 3-car distance. She beat me there by 10 minutes, just enough time to change into her pajamas and settle onto the sofa with a book. "How was the book club?" I asked as I walked in. "Oh, it was great," she said, not looking up from a novel she'd clearly just pulled from the shelf. We had a wonderful discussion about character development and themes. The book was upside down in her hands. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, listening to her breathe, wondering how long this had been going on. When had it started? How had I missed it? Had there been others before Marcus Webb? The evidence was overwhelming, yet some small, stupid part of me still wanted to be wrong, to believe that maybe she joined a book club that met somewhere else, that Marcus Webb was just a friend who happened to kiss married women goodbye. But deep down, I knew better. 49 years on this earth teaches you how to recognize a lie, even when it's one you desperately want to believe. On Friday morning, I made a decision that surprised even me. Instead of confronting her, I was going to document everything: times, dates, locations, lies, proof. If this marriage was ending, and now it seemed inevitable, I was going to be prepared for what came next. I created a folder on my computer titled Personal Insurance Investigation. Given my line of work, it felt appropriate. Once I knew what to look for, Debbie's behavior became glaringly obvious. The way she clutched her phone whenever it chimed, like it was a lifeline. The way she'd suddenly remember urgent errands she had to run during my lunch breaks. The expensive new lingerie that started appearing in our laundry basket. Delicate, pricey lace I'd never seen her wear for me. "I'm thinking of getting back in shape," she announced on Sunday morning over coffee. "Maybe join a gym." "That's a great idea," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Which one were you thinking of?" "Oh, I haven't decided yet. Maybe that one downtown." "Elite something?" I just nodded and poured more coffee, fighting back a bitter laugh at her audacity. "Want me to come with you? We could check it out together. Be workout partners." The panic in her eyes was brief, but unmistakable, as if I'd just suggested we rob a bank together. "No, that's okay," she said quickly. "I kind of want to do this for myself. For my independence." Independence. After 18 years of marriage, of building a life together, of sharing everything from mortgage payments to inside jokes, she wanted independence. That afternoon, while Debbie was supposedly visiting her sister in Delaware, I did something I never imagined I would do. I went through her personal belongings: her dresser drawers, her jewelry box, the shoe box in the closet where she kept old letters and mementos. I found receipts from restaurants we'd never been to, a hotel key card from the Hampton Inn on Route 315, and tucked inside an old jewelry box, a burner phone I'd never seen before. The phone held dozens of messages, all between her and Marcus. My stomach churned as I read them. Detailed plans for their afternoon trysts, photos I wish I could unsee, and conversations about their future together. One text stood out. Rick doesn't notice a thing. He's always so buried in his work stuff. They were right. I hadn't been paying attention to my wife, but I was paying attention now, and I was learning things I wished I could forget. On Tuesday morning, I did something that would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. I took a personal day and followed my wife. Debbie left the house at 10:30, saying she had a dentist appointment, followed by some shopping. I gave her a 15-minute head start, then got in my car and traced her route. She never went to the dentist's office. She drove straight to the Hampton Inn on Route 315. I parked across the street and watched her walk into the lobby like she owned the place. Confident, purposeful, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. 20 minutes later, Marcus Webb's black pickup pulled into the lot. They were in there for 3 hours. 3 hours that I spent sitting in my car, drinking gas station coffee, trying to figure out how I became a man who spies on his own wife. When they came out, they weren't trying to hide anything. He had his arm around her waist. She was laughing at something he'd said. They kissed goodbye, right there in the open, in a public parking lot in the middle of the day, like they didn't care who saw them. I followed Debbie to the grocery store, where this time she actually bought groceries. Milk, bread, the basics. It was like she was building her alibi in reverse. That evening, as she put the groceries away, she asked about my day. "How was work?" she asked. "Busy," I said. "How was the dentist?" "Fine, just a cleaning. Dr. Martinez says my teeth look great." "Good to know," I said. I watched her put away milk that would expire in a week, bread we didn't need, and vegetables she would probably let rot in the crisper drawer. All props for her performance as a faithful wife. And in that moment, I made my final decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to let her think she was getting away with it, while I prepared for what was to come. 18 years of marriage deserved a proper ending, not a screaming match in our kitchen. I started making copies of everything: bank statements, the insurance policy, the deed to the house. I opened a separate bank account and moved half our savings into it. If Deb wanted a fight, I was going to make sure I wasn't the only one with something to lose. On the fourth night, she announced she'd signed up for yoga classes. "That's great, honey," I said. "Which studio?" "Peaceful Mind, on Broad Street, Tuesdays and Thursdays." I knew Peaceful Mind Yoga. It had closed 6 months ago. I'd handled their insurance claim when a pipe burst and flooded the place. "I'm proud of you for trying new things," I told her. She smiled and kissed my forehead. "Thanks for supporting me, Rick." The kiss felt like a betrayal, worse than the affair itself. At least with Marcus Webb, she was honest about what she wanted. With me, she was still pretending to be the woman I married. On Thursday afternoon, I did something that surprised even me. Instead of going to work, I drove to Elite Fitness and bought a day pass. I told the receptionist I was thinking of joining and wanted to try out the equipment. I worked out for an hour, keeping enough distance to avoid conversation, but close enough to watch. He was cocky, flirted with the female clients, the type who probably thinks married women are easy targets. The worst part was imagining Debbie falling for his lines. That evening, Debbie left for her fake yoga class in a workout outfit that looked more like lingerie: tight leggings, a sports top that left little to the imagination, full makeup. "Namaste," she said, kissing my cheek. "Have a great class," I replied. An hour later, I drove to the Hampton Inn. Her car was there, in the same spot as on Tuesday. I parked somewhere different this time and waited. At 9:15 p.m., they came out together. But instead of just a quick kiss, Marcus walked her all the way to her car. They stood there talking for 10 minutes. He was gesturing, as if explaining something important. She nodded, touching his arm every now and then. I pulled out my phone and started recording. The quality wasn't great from that distance, but it was clearly them, clearly intimate, clearly not a business meeting or a chance encounter. When Debbie got home, she was glowing, truly radiant, with that post-workout flush that comes from either cardio or other activities. "How was yoga?" I asked. "Challenging, but good. I can already feel myself getting more flexible." "I'll bet you can." She missed the double meaning, or if she caught it, she chose to ignore it. That night, I uploaded the video to 3 different cloud accounts. Then I printed out a few clear screenshots and put them in an envelope with her name on it. I wasn't ready to use them yet, but when the time came, I would be prepared. On Monday morning, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting Debbie directly, I was going to let her confront herself. I printed the clearest photo from Thursday night, her and Marcus kissing in the Hampton Inn parking lot, and placed it inside a blank greeting card. No message, just the image. I slipped the envelope into her makeup drawer under the second tray where she would find it while getting ready, but not immediately. The timing had to be perfect. I wanted her to be alone when she found it, in a private space where she couldn't perform or deflect, where she would have to face what she'd been doing. That same morning, I called my friend Dee, who owns a cabin near Hocking Hills. "I need to get away for a few days," I told him. "Everything okay, Rick?" "It will be. Can I use the cabin?" "Keys are under the flower pot. Stay as long as you need." I packed a week's worth of clothes, left the bag in the trunk of my car, and went to work like nothing was wrong. Around noon, I went home for my lunch break. Debbie's car was gone, probably out with Marcus somewhere. I put my bag in the hall closet and went back to work. That evening, Debbie seemed on edge. She kept glancing at her phone, peering up the stairs as if expecting something to happen. "You okay?" I asked during dinner. "Yeah, just tired." "Maybe you should take a hot bath, relax a little." She nodded, distracted. "Good idea." I watched TV downstairs while she went up to get ready for bed. 20 minutes later, I heard her moving around in the bedroom, opening and closing drawers. Then, silence. I waited another 10 minutes before going up. The bathroom door was closed, but I could hear the water running. On our bed was an open envelope. The photo was face up, resting on her pillow. I didn't slam any doors. I didn't say a word. I just went back downstairs, grabbed my bag from the closet, and left a note on the kitchen counter that said, "Think about what you want." And then I was gone. I left her to sit with that image of herself. I left her to wonder where I was, what I was thinking, what I might do next. For 18 years, I had been predictable, reliable, always there when she needed me. Not anymore. The cabin was exactly what I needed. No cell service, no internet, just the silence of the woods and time to think. I brought enough supplies for a week, but planned to stay only 3 days. Just long enough for Debbie to panic, to realize her safety net was gone. On the second day, I drove to the nearest town and turned on my phone. 14 missed calls, 9 voicemails, dozens of texts. They started calmly. "Where are you?" and escalated to a desperate, "Please come home. We need to talk." I didn't answer any of them. On the fourth afternoon, I drove home as if nothing had happened. Debbie's car was in the driveway, and she was at the kitchen window when I pulled in. She must have been waiting. She met me at the door before I could even get my key out. "Rick, where have you been?" Her voice was strained, her eyes red. "I've been calling you for 3 days." I walked past her into the house and hung up my coat. I needed some time to think. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She seemed smaller, somehow, less confident than the woman who had been sneaking off to hotels. "About the picture you found," I said calmly. Her face went pale. "Rick, I can explain." "No, you can't explain. You can apologize. You can make promises. You can cry, but you can't explain why you've been sleeping with Marcus Webb for months while lying to my face every single day." She tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "I know about the book club that doesn't exist. I know about the yoga studio that closed 6 months ago. I know about the Hampton Inn, room 315, about Elite Fitness, and about every single lie you've told me since this began." Debbie sank into a kitchen chair, as if her legs could no longer hold her. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough to document everything. Long enough to move half our money into a separate account. Long enough to consult a divorce attorney." "Divorce?" The word hung in the air like a slap. "What did you expect, Debbie? That I'd pretend none of this happened? That we'd go back to having dinner together while you kept sneaking off to sleep with your personal trainer?" "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair for months. You've lied to me, manipulated me, and made me feel like I was crazy for noticing something was wrong." She was crying now, but I felt nothing. No pity, no anger, just a cold, clear certainty. "I never wanted this to happen," Debbie said, "but it did. And you chose to keep it going, week after week, lie after lie. What do you want me to do?" I looked at my wife of 18 years, the woman I had planned to grow old with, and realized that person had been gone for months. I was mourning a ghost. "I want you out of the house by Friday," I said. "Take what you need. We'll handle the rest through lawyers. Rick, please, can't we try therapy? Can't we fix this?" "There's nothing to fix, Debbie. You made your choice when you walked into that hotel room. Now I'm making mine." She begged. She pleaded. She swore it was over with Marcus. But I had already checked out emotionally. The man who would have fought for this marriage died the night I followed her to Elite Fitness. The man standing in our kitchen now was done fighting for someone who had given up on us months ago. 3 weeks after Debbie moved out, I started hearing things through the town grapevine. Millbrook is a small place. News travels fast, especially when marriages end, and even faster when they end dramatically. My neighbor mentioned seeing her at the grocery store, looking haggard. The clerk at my bank said she'd come in crying, trying to access accounts that were no longer joint. My colleague Frank told me she'd called his office, asking about Cobra insurance, her voice trembling on the phone. The most telling report came from my friend Mike, whose wife worked at Elite Fitness. "She's been showing up at the gym constantly," Mike said over a beer. "Almost every day, sometimes twice a day. Just hangs around the parking lot or works out alone. Marcus Webb won't even talk to her anymore." That didn't surprise me. Men like Marcus love the thrill of seducing a married woman, but they don't stick around for the fallout. Debbie was no longer forbidden fruit. She was just another single woman with baggage. I should have felt some satisfaction hearing about her struggles, but mostly, I just felt empty. This was the woman I planned to retire with, to travel with, to grow old with. Watching her fall apart brought no joy. It just confirmed I'd made the right decision. The divorce was swift, since we had no kids and I had documented everything meticulously. Debbie tried to fight for alimony, claiming she'd sacrificed career opportunities for our marriage. Her lawyer dropped that argument quickly when mine presented the evidence of the affair and the expensive gifts she'd received from Marcus. In the end, we split everything 50-50. The house sold in less than a month. Apparently, word of our marriage ending had gotten around, and the neighbors were uncomfortable with the drama. I bought a smaller condo on the other side of town, something that was just mine. 6 months after I left that photo in her makeup drawer, Debbie called me. She sounded different, quieter, more uncertain than the confident woman who used to sneak off to hotels. Rick, I know I have no right to ask, but would you meet me for coffee? Just to talk. Talk about what, Debbie? About closure, about understanding what went wrong. I thought about it for a moment. Part of me was curious to see how she'd changed, what she'd learned after losing everything. One conversation, I agreed. That's it. We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. Debbie looked older, tired in a way that makeup couldn't hide. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by something that looked like genuine regret. I destroyed everything, didn't I? She said, without any preamble. Yes, you did. I thought I could have both, she continued. The security of our marriage and the excitement of something new. I thought you'd never find out. Or what? If I did find out, you thought I'd just accept it? Because you loved me. That's not love, Debbie. That's control. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I see that now. I lost the best thing in my life because I was selfish and bored. And what happened with Marcus? He ended it the day after I was served with divorce papers. Said he wasn't looking for anything serious, that I had misread what we had. I didn't say, I told you so. We both already knew it. I'm sorry, Rick. I know it doesn't change anything, but I am truly sorry. I appreciate that, I replied, but you're right. It doesn't change anything. We talked for another hour. She told me about therapy, about trying to understand why she'd sabotaged her own life. I told her about my new place, about my plans for early retirement, about the peace I was finding in starting over. When we said goodbye, there were no lingering promises, no dramatic declarations. Just two people who had shared 18 years acknowledging that sometimes love isn't enough to overcome bad choices. A year after I left that photo in Debbie's makeup drawer, I was a different man. Not bitter, not broken, just wiser, more cautious about who I trusted, more aware of my own worth, more selective about how I spent my time. The divorce had been final for 6 months. The house sold, the assets divided, all the paperwork signed. Debbie had moved to Columbus, likely looking for a fresh start in a place where fewer people knew her story. I stayed in Millbrook, but bought a house on the other side of town, smaller, simpler, exactly what I needed. My work as an insurance adjuster took on a new meaning. I had always been good at investigating claims, seeing through deception, and finding the truth. Now, I applied those same skills to my personal life. I trusted my gut more. paid closer attention to the details, and didn't ignore red flags. The solitude was real, but it was manageable. I had forgotten how much I enjoyed my own company. Saturday mornings with coffee on the porch, reading without interruption, cooking meals I actually wanted to eat, small pleasures that had been lost in years of compromise. 3 months ago, I met Linda. She's 45, divorced, and works as a nurse at Millbrook General. We met while I was investigating a slip and fall claim at the hospital. She was professional, direct, and completely indifferent to my questions, until she realized I was genuinely trying to help the patient receive fair compensation. Most insurance adjusters try to minimize the payouts, she told me over coffee after our third meeting. Most insurance adjusters, I replied, have never been on the other side of a betrayal. It changes your perspective on doing the right thing. We're taking things slow. We've both been burned before, and we both value honesty more than passion. She knows my story. I know hers. We talk about everything: work, family, fears, our dreams for the future. The kind of conversations Debbie and I had stopped having years before the affair. Last week, Linda asked me something that made me realize just how much I've healed. Did you miss being married? I missed being married to someone who wanted to be married to me, I told her. I don't miss being married to someone who was looking for a way out. And do you think you'd get married again? With the right person? Yes. But only with someone who sees marriage as a partnership, not a safety net. Linda smiled and took my hand. Good answer. Looking back, losing my marriage to Debbie was devastating at the time. But it wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a better chapter. I'm 49 years old. I'm financially stable, emotionally healthy, and for the first time in years, optimistic about the future. Sometimes, the best thing that can happen to a man is to lose someone who never deserved him.